Good afternoon. Welcome. My most recent encounter with a robot was on the internet. I stumbled on a sex robot. In my world, that means I stumbled on an article about a sex robot. It was called the world's first real sex-capable robot, whose name, I understand, is Harmony. And this surprised me, because when it comes to sex, I have a lot of associations, but Harmony is not one of them. And this made me realize that most research on love, sex, relationships, and robots discusses love in terms of harmony, warmth, intimacy, dedication, good vibrations. But in real life, love, as you well may know, is a cause of much despair, loss, tears, broken hearts, broken taboos, crimes, and misdemeanors. You might say that in general, the debate around technology and human life sounds a bit like a promotion for the Scientology church. A part science, a part science fiction, and the promise of salvation, the promise of a world without crime, poverty, misery, or madness, a world of sex robots, all called harmony. It is this message of salvation that we want to discuss and complicate today, make it a bit more interesting. The science part, the science fiction part, and the love part, we shake them all up. We do that in the form of a symposium, a Platonic symposium, written originally in the year 385 before Christ by the Greek philosopher, an essay on love, today in an updated and modern version. We are in a theater, that is, you are in a theater, you are the audience, and you'll watch the actors who on their turn watch a movie about a care robot. A robot in a retirement home, a home for the elderly. And though the care robot in the movie is called Alice and not Harmony, she nevertheless suggests the possibility of love. We have 5 distinguished actors whom you'll meet in a moment. They discuss the movie. You'll see the movie first, then they'll discuss the movie in their Platonic symposium. And as an introduction to that, I'll give you 5 love-related questions, more or less connected to the 5 actors. After my introduction and my 5 annoying, critical questions about love, I'll shut up and the play begins. First, annoying question. De wederkerigheid van de liefde, reciprocity of love, it should come from both sides. Of course, we can love a care robot in a hospital or a retirement home without it loving us back. We can love a book, we can love television or chicken soup without it loving us back. But in order to speak of a real loving relationship between human and robot, the robot should love us. And if it is to be love, the robot should also be free not to love us back. It might not fancy us. If it fancies everyone, no matter what, no matter who, the relationship is not very meaningful. And if it does not fancy everyone in the old people's home, the old people will be broken-hearted, and they'll get drunk out of despair. Is that what we want? Maybe it's life. So the first question is the question, what is love? And to tackle that question, one of the actors plays a philosopher of love. The second question looks into morality and the rights of robots. Humans who work in care, people who work in care in hospitals or in retirement homes, are not allowed to love patients or clients. Emotional attachment or commitment is discouraged, if not forbidden. Why would that be any different for care robots? Should we not forbid them to love us for their own good? Do they have rights? Or do they need selves in order to have rights? And here's a strange paradox. If care robots are human enough to love us, they should be forbidden to love us. Now it is clear that they will not be capable of loving us in the foreseeable future or ever. So we won't be forced to give them rights and protect them from love. But should we not at least have a moral approach to robots and the way we love them? For instance, by giving them the opportunity to do their job without being forced to act as a projection screen for human emotions. To tackle these issues, we have an actor to play a moral philosopher, ethicist, or the moral philosopher plays an actor. I get lost in fiction sometimes. The third rather grumpy question about love is simple. Robots have advantages and they have disadvantages. The disadvantage of robots is that they steal or take our jobs. The advantage is that they take over our romantic affairs. We don't have to date anymore. We don't have to get married. We don't have to love. We don't have to enchant or impress. Machines can do the job better. No fake romance, but programmable reliability. And the engineer will answer the question how this is done. We have an actor who plays an engineer. Question number 4. Thinking machines do not exist. Neither do loving robots. It is us. We want a book to talk to us, or the television, or a robot. We want to be loved. Computers are just computers. They do not have a consciousness or an I or a me, and they never will. They are profoundly alien, and the question is not whether we can have any relationship, any meaningful relationship with machines. We can't. The question is why we would want to. Maybe we can learn how to love from machines precisely because they do not feel anything, like we learn rescue swimming with the help of a doll. In order to answer this question, we have a professor in technology studies. And the final miserable question is number 5. Machines do not work alone. They act in networks. And maybe we should do the same. Maybe we should emerge in a large network, lose our individual self, become connected, and find new techniques of being loved by networked others, vanish in collectivity, be touched by unknown hands, meet machines out of the box, dissolve in a large kettle of erotic soup. And in order to analyze this artificial eroticism, we have an experienced expert. So now we'll start the show, we start the film, we enter the theatrical world of the Symposium, and we'll meet the 5 actors. Johan, the engineer. Kathleen, the moral philosopher. Sherry, professor in science and technology studies. Erich, the famous philosopher on the art of loving. Simon, playwright and experience expert. Have a nice show.
In 2024 hebben wij 4 keer zoveel 80-jarigen als dat we nu hebben. 3/4 van de mensen van 80 heeft iets waardoor je zorg nodig hebt.
Hallo, ik ben Alice.
Kan je me goed verstaan?
Jazeker. U vertelde me over uw zoon, Jeroen.
Dat heb je goed onthouden, Alice.
Dat woont u leuk.
Grappig.
Hoe gaat het met u?
Ik ben er nog en ik probeer me nog te handhaven. Dat is alles.
De postcode is 1057 BA.
Dirk Anton.
Niet Dirk, maar Bernard.
Hè? Dit is mijn man en dat is Jeroen.
Iets hoger.
Nog hoger.
Knappe man. Zullen we even naar buiten gaan?
Ja, als je dat wil.
7. 8. Nog een paar keer.
Dit wordt uw nieuwe vriendin. Hoor je dat? Jij wordt mijn nieuwe vriendin.
Wat leuk. Voelt u zich wel eens eenzaam?
Jazeker, dat voel ik elke dag wel.
Oh, dat is jammer.
Dit is geen hulp, dit is dat zij nog eens helemaal bewust wordt van het feit dat ze zo eenzaam is.
Ja, ik heb vernomen dat het de toekomst zou worden in de zorg. Maar ik sta er nog wel heel sceptisch tegenover.
Maar hoe vindt u dat nou, zo'n robotje in huis?
Oh, heerlijk.
Hup, Holland, hup.
Becoming old at such a
But still, it's like watching football.
It's basically disgusting. Yes.
It's kind of nice. I mean,
Yes, of course.
somebody that doesn't tell you what Do you want to sit down for a moment? Yeah.
Maybe we can
Should
get
we
this robot out
get
of
this
here
guy
so
out?
that we can talk more.
Oh, can you shut up the noise? We'd like to have a normal conversation here. Thank you very
A little
much.
bit more.
You want to be really
Yes.
close.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because of the water.
Oh, well, I'm glad we just saw the movie because, you know, I developed Alice and I'm very proud of it since I'm an engineer and I'm not a philosopher. So as an engineer, when I see a problem, I want to solve it, not make it worse as philosophers do. I don't want to talk about autonomy or freedom or reciprocity. I just want to solve the problem. And the problem is that within a few years, we will have 4 times as many people who are 80 plus who will suffer from loneliness and depression. And I think with Alice, they can be more happy. They can experience intimacy, friendship, even love. And that's why I think, let her give a chance and make the life of these elderly people better.
But this seems to be a technical solution to a social problem. A poor technical solution to an important social problem. Can the robot Alice really love the elderly people?
I don't think so.
No?
I think
Why not?
love is very deep human capacity. My book, The Art of Loving, was all about love, not as receiving, as getting from a machine, getting things in, getting out of love. It's our most basic human capacity that we need to develop. We need not to receive, but to give from our core and not walking behind things and filling us up. It's not really human. My fear is not that robots become human-like, but humans become robot-like, that we go ourselves on our automatic pilot.
I have a fear that we will start giving our money to companies that were to sell us robots that supposedly love us.
But isn't the most important thing that the human beings that live with the robots love the robots, that they can love? Because before Alice they were lonely, and now they have somebody or something to love. What's wrong with that?
Yes, so it's clear that the humans could love the robots, but if I love a robot, I would like the robot to love me back. Can a robot love a human being?
Well, but if the algorithm is such that the robot is used to you, you could say that being used to like the robot being used to the human that they're in the house with, that could be a form of love. I mean, isn't it like a romantic ideal of marriage to be anything else than being used to each other?
Well, you could have face recognition software, or you can implant a chip and the robot could follow you around and pick you out in a crowd. But so could my cell phone. I don't know if it loves me.
But how do you know that if another person loves you? What is the difference between the love that your robots gives you and the love of your wife?
Well, of course, the robot could behave as if it loves me, just like my wife or your husband behaves as if they love us. But in the human case, we think that there's something below the surface. It's not just about behavior. We could have an actor pretending to love us, to behave as if they love us. But we want something more than just behavior. Do we not want something below the surface, an inner life, subjectivity?
But love means developing yourself. It's getting to your inner core. It's our most human faculty, and you lose it if it's put into robots. Robots are basically conditioned, and men and women can be conditioned as well. But humans have something beyond. We've got something. Conventions can change. I've seen many changes. The marriage used to be a holy thing when I was young. We've got now divorce, we've got polyamory, we've got everything. But beneath is that human capacity to give and to love. And it's almost as if we seem to forget that.
But what is it? What is it? Because I think the women we saw in the movie, they loved Alice. I agree with you that the robot does not really love those elderly people, but they love Alice. So how do you define love that's different from the love that they feel for Alice?
But love is about giving and receiving. It's about mutuality and reciprocity. So for sure, the ladies in the movie maybe love Alice, but does Alice love them back? Is it a one-way street or is it a two-way street?
But I don't think you need to say that Alice replaces human love. It's a different kind of love, which can be as meaningful as well. And I think even Alice can develop in her capacity of giving love. And I think the relation, like any relation, can be a surprising relation with many forms of outcomes. You shouldn't be that much on your humanistic high horse and think that love is only between two species of the humankind. I love my dog as much as I love my, wife, I will not say, but sorry.
Perhaps more.
For that. She's not here.
Isn't it also the problem, I mean, with your language as an engineer, you're saying, I have a solution, which is already creating like this single-mindedness, while what you're missing is this capacity for change. And if you wouldn't see it as a solution, but you saw it as an additional function, right? If the robot is an additional, then the change can still happen. Because, for example, being polyamorous, it also means that I like the change of being with different people. And I could imagine that that would happen as well with a robot. Like you would have the experience of loving a robot and experiencing, like you're saying, like you come towards something, you develop something of yourself in this relation with the robot. And that could help, actually, the human relations.
I think you can learn through loving a robot. I think young children, they play with dolls. What's the difference between a doll and a robot. I mean, children play with things. They love their dolls. When there's the doll break, the children will cry. It's true loss. That's one of the questions.
Yes.
So it's good learning material. Isn't that good? Isn't the art of loving something that you have to learn?
That's right. Isn't
it's
art
in your book?
love and
In your book.
The art of loving.
What about your book?
The art of
The
loving
art.
is basically about overcoming our separateness. Overcoming our separateness as human beings, coming closer to each other, developing our capacities to give and receive reciprocally. And with a robot, the separateness can't be overcome. There's always this distance. And another difference is that another one of my favorite books I wrote is the fear of freedom. And basically, we are free. We can choose. A robot can't choose. It can be programmed. And we humans, we've got the option to choose. And if we lose those precious capacities, we become below the human level and become robots ourselves.
Erich, that's all too deep and complicated, and especially German for me. If I see my relation with other people, I'm not into overcoming separateness. It's far too complicated. That's what you say, because you want to sell books. For me, love is being noticed, being able to have a conversation, somebody who remembers me, what I said before, somebody who says, let's go out and do something nice. That's for me more basic than overcoming separateness. Now I'm the people in the elderly house are very separate. They're lonely. Nobody visits them. And I still think I'm allowed to speak about a solution, because the problem is really they're depressed and lonely. I agree in the next stage we can see it as a more developed stage of our capacity of loving different forms of life, whatever.
But you want to remember, new solutions create new problems. And so, yes, the love robot notices you by collecting your data and selling it to advertisers, by recording everything you do and taking away your privacy. Is that the kind of noticing that you would want?
I
but
agree.
Love and privacy, I mean, if you love somebody, you don't keep things for yourself. Why is privacy a problem? I mean, isn't
yes, it's true. You might
having
want
a
to
loving relationship being open?
You might want to make a public commitment to your beloved, such as in a marriage ceremony. Of course, that brings up the idea of freedom again, because when you marry someone, you want there to be a free choice. Do you take this person or this robot to be your beloved robot or person? Yes, that should be a free choice. And so if the robot is going to be able to marry me, it has to have free will.
But would that solve your problem, that there will be some kind of a wedding ceremony prior to entering in a relationship with a robot in an elderly home? So we should have robot-human marriages in elderly homes? Would that solve your problem?
It would solve the loneliness in one way. But in the elderly home, of course, it's the professional relationship between the care worker and the human to be cared for. You might ask, is there a duty of care workers to love their care recipients?
I heard from Maxime that it's forbidden to really love, to go into a relationship. So I think the robot is actually an improvement
so
to
the
that.
solution is a love robot in the care home.
But
a partner.
I feel like you romanticize free choice. I mean, your book on the fear of freedom is so political, and it's only shown that people don't choose freedom.
Yeah,
so this idea of free choice in love, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, we've had straight love and marriages for ages, and they don't look anything different than they used to do.
Yeah, so and the book is really
love
written
structures you.
Before.
It takes you. Yeah. It's not freedom, not at all.
I don't believe that either, but it's culturally motivated. So the way that we think that, do you know this phrase of like love is love? I mean, that's bullshit. How do we know what love is without cultural images implying what love is? Love is a narrative. You especially must agree with that.
No, I don't really. I think you must go beyond. You must go beyond. When I arrived at Eindhoven station, I saw a quote by Piet Mondriaan, "Conventions are a problem. Conventions are cultural memories. They take us away from art, they take us away from love." And I say they take us away from the art of loving. We can go beyond. There's something unconditioned, deep, and it's a human capacity. And I don't agree with you. I'm too shallow to live that. I don't want it. It's like a bird. I can fly, but I won't learn to fly. I stay on the ground. It's great to develop our most basic human capacities. Don't run away from it.
But how can you then think that robots would not help develop that?
Because it's not reciprocal. They can't.
But don't they challenge your idea of love? They challenge us to redefine what love is, because it was a very simple concept up until the day that we had the love robots, and then we certainly found out that, oh, there's something more to it. Apparently, we all think that there is something additional to human love to robot love.
Yes, and in the same way,
Explain it to me.
Facebook friendship challenges the idea of friendship. To be a friend, you click accept, and then you like people's posts. That's the new idea of friendship. So maybe the love robot will give us a new idea of love.
Oh, no, the relation with the robot is much deeper than with the Facebook friends. The robot is here. You have interaction. The robot reacts face to face. I think that's a false comparison you're making there. I still think we can have meaningful relationships and people start to feel better. And I don't want to leave those elderly people alone. That's my basic problem. And you speak about technological fix. What's wrong with technological fixes, I understand? Because what you want is a sociological fix or a political fix. It's all in the fixing. What's wrong with the fix?
But the problem is that love is about emotions. And can a robot feel emotions?
Well, I was just going to say that it feels a bit paternalistic to me to talk about solutions for people that are not on stage and speaking about the solutions that they want themselves. It reminds me of people without a disability designing structures for people with a disability. That doesn't seem right, especially with caregivers.
I agree.
And we are not
I
like...
agree.
It's
but
a
we
certain
spoke to many persons, elderly persons. So of course I couldn't invite them here, but if they were, they would confirm that I spoke to them and they were open to having Alice in ours. We saw it in the movie.
They look happy. That's what I saw.
They were happy. They were enthusiastic. It was not paternalistic at all.
I saw people change from like they were like a plant in the beginning of the movie, and in the end of the movie they were alive.
Yeah, but the conception that's behind that, I mean, the idea of what a plant is, like an elderly not doing something and an elderly doing something, still feels a bit wrong to me to discuss when these people are not themselves representing at this moment. And also with caregivers who are mostly people of color and migrant people in the Netherlands that are doing this work. What do they have to say about Alice?
Yeah, unfortunately, they're not here to answer that question.
Now, I want to come back to the idea of love as an art. Now, if love is a kind of art, does it mean that a loving robot would be a kind of artist, that it could create art? Can a robot create art, the art of love?
I think the art of loving, it's like music, it's like painting, it's like medicine, you develop it. And we heard a robot playing flute. Flute is also an art. But yet, I think there's...
It wasn't a beautiful art, was it?
I think there's a difference.
But how do you learn love? Tell me.
I think the main thing is
where can I find a teacher?
Overcoming the obstacles. I think the main difference between a robot and a human being is that we are loving beings, but due to conventions, upbringing, other things, there are blockages to love. And with a little help from our friends and with a little mirroring, my wife always gives me back my unhandy things, so I'm able to develop and there is love if the blockages are removed, and that love is an eternal human capacity.
But what if, for example, my obstacle is that I'm really, really shy and I don't feel comfortable telling my secrets? I could learn this through a robot like Alice, and she will help me overcome my shyness, and it's okay to share my inner secrets. So I don't understand why.
Because it's reciprocal. It's reciprocal. Love is not a one-direction thing. I need a robot, I take it in.
I don't agree. If you have, for example, a mentally disabled child, severely mentally disabled, I think there can be a meaningful relation. Though you don't receive much back from this mentally disabled child or a severely autistic child, I still think there can be a meaningful and loving relationship between the two of you. I think you are paternalistic by saying the other person should be as autonomous and reciprocal as well.
We have
and there are different relations.
No, we have a Dutch We have a Dutch, in Holland there's a priest and psychologist, Henry Nouwen, who cared for a severely disabled boy, Adam. And in this relationship, even though he couldn't move and talk, he felt the reciprocal relationship between the disabled boy and the psychologist. And they developed together. That it's another thing, like a Tamagotchi.
You can have the same with a robot, is my proposition.
Isn't then the difference the juridical sort of question? So like if robots would have rights, then you could have equal love. Because, for example, if you would hurt them, then they would be, I mean, this is the thing, right? There's a difference between this boy and a robot. I mean, many differences, I'm sure, but also in court. If you would hurt the kid, this would have implications. If you hurt a robot, it doesn't have implications. So maybe we should flip it around and not think about what kind of love we can get from a robot, but what kind of rights.
Yes, because the robot might want a divorce, it might want to break up, it might want to find another human.
Yeah, and you'll be heartbroken.
Yes, but I have paid for it.
Yes, but I also pay for my child, and it can also go away.
But then you see the robot as a slave.
If I paid for it and I own it...
Can you love a slave?
Well, no, love is between equals. And so, yes, you would have to create a robot that would be your equal and give it rights. And so it's a dilemma. So either you can own it, buy it, sell it, and it's a slave,
but you can
or
love,
it should be free.
Why can't you love somebody who's not equal to you?
Yes.
It's heterosexuality.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the principles of the market are, I paid for it, it's mine, I own it. It's the principles of the market. And in my book, The Art of Loving, my greatest fear is that the principles of the market are coming into love relationships, making lovely relationships instrumental. So I think that the robotical thing we're discussing is not the cause of the problem, it's the end product of the problem of making all economic and from the market principle. And then we dehumanize one another, and then we end up with love robots.
Yeah, but I also paid for my dog. It was an expensive dog. But if the dog wants to leave me, the dog is free to leave. Yeah. I feel like that. But I agree, though, there might be a problem when a robot becomes too human-like. It should have rights, so to say. And then it's hard if you pay for it, you say, no, you're mine, I possess you. But I think we have to look at what kind of robots we're going to develop. So Alice is still at a stage that you can't say she has rights, but still she helps people who are lonely and who want a conversation. In this sense, you can say, this is a possession. So by already saying, well, what should we do when robots got rights and you paid for it? Of course, that's a problem, but we can solve it later. I don't think we should stop a development with introducing Alice into elderly houses and see what happens and see how we can develop Alice in a way that the relation is meaningful and people become happy, and even Alice in her own way becomes happy.
I worry that robots as lovers will lead to the de-skilling in the romantic area, that people will become only able to interact with the robots romantically, but then around other human beings, they won't know what to do with.
Why
Human
would
beings
that
are
happen?
too complicated.
Why? I don't see the slippery slope. I mean, you know the difference between the one person and the other person, and you know this one person likes drinking wine and the other person likes to dance with me, so I drink wine with the one and dance with the other. I don't mix the two. So if I have a sexual relationship with a robot, I know that I'm with the robot. Why would I start treating the human being as if he or she was the robot? That's a weird assumption that I can't really follow. Because I mean, my children learn to love with their dolls, but they don't treat me as a doll.
Maybe I'll become addicted to my robot. I will only want to interact with the robot. It's simple. It loves me.
Some people have that with their partner. They are a sex addict, so they don't have any attention for anything else. What's the difference? Why do you feel that being addicted to a robot is worse or of lower quality than being addicted to another person?
I'm worried that I'll be taken advantage of by the big companies trying to sell me updates, upgrades.
Oh, we create an open source robot. Would that solve your problem?
Okay, maybe.
You mean with data and everything? Like they will
No,
collect
yes,
data.
they would collect the data, but also in order for the robot to keep loving me, I may need to make monthly payments because otherwise it's not going to be updated,
And
upgraded.
this is the conditional love I always warn for. Conditional love. Real love is unconditional, unconditioned, and from beyond. And and you can say, I love my dog as well, and I paid for it, but you can use your reckoning machine and pay for it, but is that a loving? I love my computer, I love my bike. It's different. It's not like the way you love humans.
But I do think...
sorry.
Go
It
ahead.
is different, I agree, but has it less value? I don't see it. Sorry, you're too
You shouldn't
elitist in a way.
You shouldn't confuse apparatuses with humans.
But there's
I
no
do.
confusion.
It's a
And
good-
animals?
it's a good
That's your
capacity.
problem.
It's a good
What
capacity
group are
of us
animals?
humans.
I mean, is animals in between humans and apparatus, or is animals, because it's a living, is it then in the same category as human beings? How do you feel about people that love their animals?
I love my cat. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't make love
Is that
with
true love?
it. It's not human love. It's the love of a human to an animal. I know my cat is a bit of a psychopath. It's not reciprocal. But yes, I love it. But I love my wife and my children in another way.
Another way, but
human.
I feel that you think that's a better way of loving, and we are challenging
It's
you.
it's all on its own level. I also love my bike in a way, and love going with the train. But it's not the art of loving I talk about.
But don't you think like the whole idea of love needs to be deconstructed in a way? I mean, I agree with you that we need more development of the robots, but at the same time, we need to deconstruct the current idea of what love is. Because if we continue in that, we create these sex robots. I mean, we've seen, maybe not Alice, I mean, she looks very friendly, but the question is, why is she named Alice? It's like hurricanes with a female name because it's, I don't know, less threatening. And then, of course, like, why are sex robots always shaped in this very sort of pornographic that we already know way?
But I agree. I see this multiverse of love, so to say. So I think they can go together, develop robots who are able of loving and deconstruction of this whole idea of love. It's an adventure. I think you, as an ethicist, Kathleen, you should be enthusiastic about this idea.
Yeah.
Yes. Don't be so conservative,
I'm worried
please.
that if the robot hurts someone, breaks their heart, or maybe hurts them physically, who is going to be responsible for this? The robot? The person who bought the robot? The person who sold the robot? I worry that these love robots will create responsibility gaps.
Yes, but you see problems, not possibilities. I'm an engineer. I see possibilities. I also see problems, but I'm here to solve them. Of course, that's a problem, but we have to find it out with our legal specialist. But we'll get around it, I'm sure.
May I just ask you, as an experience expert, what are your experiences thus far with robots and sex and love?
You asking Kathleen?
I'm asking all of you, actually.
Oh, okay.
Well, my experiences are great with Alice, of course. And
Have you lived
I could
with her?
do a sex robot, if you ask me, but I haven't done it yet. But
No, because I mean, again, we're talking right about this, and I'm just wondering, in the smallest sense, like, is Tinder, you know, the dating app, is it a robot to you, or
To me, it's not a robot.
It's turning people into robots.
It's a new medium that makes contact between two people that would otherwise not have met possible, and especially for people that are shy, I think it's a great app because you can communicate a little bit before you actually meet each other, and also very handy. You know beforehand that the other person might be interested, whereas if you go out, you don't know whether he or she already has a partner. But that's about human interaction, and there's technology in between that helps you. But the robot thing is something else. What strikes me about all the debates about robot love is what it tells me about human love, because people are shocked about certain elements that people show when they are in love with a robot or a chatbot, and I think, I just have to look around and I can name out some couples that have pretty much similar relationships with each other. And I became aware of this when I saw people interacting with robots, and that made me realize, some marriages, they resemble a bit those marriages. People that don't know, for example, this professor that ended up having a relationship with a chatbot while he thought he was in love with a nice woman from Russia, and it turned out after a year that she was not a real human but a chatbot. Then I think, how well do you understand other human beings? Are you really capable of
Yes,
loving?
but nevertheless,
It's a
I
Turing
think
machine.
it would be bad news when if
Yeah, it
you
is
were
bad
online
news.
and you found out that it was a chatbot and not a real
But
human
after a
being.
year,
Well,
you
may
already
okay.
bought a wedding dress
Yes.
and a ticket, and then you find out that that person was a machine. That tells me something about that person that was fooled.
Yes, well.
But I
He
would
wa-
like
he-
to
he
know
was-
what your...
He wasn't able to love yet. He was in a condition, still living from his conditionings, fixed expectations, fixed conventions. He hadn't gone beyond the conventions. I say we need not construct love, but all the conventions, gender-specific conventions, the specific conventions of the time. But there is an eternal capacity to overcome separateness.
Yeah,
And
but
you
the
do-
robots reveal that this is present.
Yes, robots make it even more separate because we interact with robots,
In-
not with other
In
humans.
that sense, you can learn from robots what love does not mean.
But what the robots does to us is really rephrase the question, what is the difference between the love between a human being and a machine, and a human being and an animal, and a human being and a human being? I'm not convinced by your answer yet. But the robot love, is challenging me.
But it tells you something when a professor fell in love with a robot that he didn't know how to love. So I think we still do agree.
Why
Yeah.
would the robot want to love a human when there are other robots around?
Why a robot would want to
Yes,
love
to
you?
why should the robot not love another robot? Why downgrade to human? The other robot could live forever, get constantly updated. The human will die and be constantly downgraded.
Yeah,
But I think that
I think it's unfair to the robots.
No,
I
but I
think
think you can
we're
have two
human.
robots. You
Yeah.
can have a robot community. Of course, the point is that if I put Alice over there, Alice might be able to enjoy the company of the person maybe for 2 years, for 5 years. And then Alice is alone again. But Alice can go to another person. And the most beautiful thing about it, that Alice has made up a history. She becomes more or less a person. She gets a biography. She can talk about her former relation. And so I think it only deepens the element of the relation and affection. And talking
She
about
can become-
overcoming separateness, of course, human beings and robots are very separate. So I think to jump in your love to the robot is overcoming this separateness. Indeed, it's almost godly like love. God loves everybody. And so if you're able to love a robot, I think you're in the highest ranks of mysticism.
I don't think so. I think that what you show is that the robots get conditioned. In psychology, we also have got the behaviorism. The robot learns. She has a relationship here. She has a relationship there. She learns. She has a complex conditioning. But we have gone in psychology beyond behaviorism, and there is more than complex conditioning. There's something beyond. And of course,
But what is it?
love.
What is?
Our birthright. It's who you are under your blockages, under your problems.
Yeah, and I like to love my robot.
I agree with you, though.
Thank you.
I mean, I wrote a play about this man loving a sex doll, and he really had to train himself and practice with himself how it feels to touch someone without getting something back. And this is something, like, this is a great quality. Like, if you touch a skin that doesn't tell you, oh, this is so pleasant and so nice, and still you have to sort of, like, you have to become very aware of subtleties. And sort of like, you have to really try different things because you do not get this response. There's nothing worse than a lover immediately responding, this is so great. You're not exploring anything.
But being conscious, being attentive, doing what you do with all your care and your attention is basically to do with the art of loving. Whether you're cooking a meal, or with your partner, or with your children, or with your dog.
The funny thing is, I once met the actor that was in that play, and he told me that his girlfriend told him that he became a better lover because he was so patient with the doll, and he learned to exactly all these things that you are telling me. He learned this through this doll, And his girlfriend told him that he became a better person.
But was in the end of the day, did they change? He went on with the robot or went to his girl again?
No, but this is
He went
that's
back
very
to his
monogamous
girlfriend. He
of
never
you.
left his girlfriend. He was acting with the doll.
Yes,
Yes,
He
because the girl
learning.
was conscious, whereas the robot was not. And surely we want our lovers to have consciousness, to
It's
be
the
aware of
reciprocal.
us, to recognize us for who we are.
But he could practice the art of loving on stage with this doll.
Okay, so it's a
And he
practice
became
tool.
yeah.
It's like
But-
going to the sports
But
schools.
if
and
something is an art, it's something you can
It's a
learn and
love
become
gym.
better in. Well, if the robot can help you with that, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, and I
Again,
do think that.
I
sorry.
think you shouldn't have a hierarchy in love.
Yeah.
I think consciousness is a very complicated concept. You should know as a philosopher, and you also as a psychologist. And I think artificial intelligence is not based on the idea of behaviorism. It's much more complicated. So you won't win the argument with that, I think. So if my robot has some level of consciousness, it means it's able to react, it's able to learn. I don't think I project my idea, oh, this must be a foolproof human being. No, I'm aware of the fact that Alice has her limitations, but it shouldn't be a dumb doll or something. I can still have interaction, talk with her about things we've done together, and if I feel good about it and I feel my life is better, I get more quality of life, I just don't see the problem by saying, oh, this is not real and this will be capitalistic, or I don't know, Kathleen.
Well, I think
yes.
there's a hierarchy or ranking, because if you could choose between a human and a robot, would you not prefer the human?
Depends
Yes,
on
I
who the
would.
human
Well,
is and
well,
who the
some
robot
humans-
is. If it's a horrible person
Oh, yes.
and a nice robot,
Yeah, I would
With
choose
lots of
the
jokes.
nice robot. Yes, but of course I would prefer a human being. That's not the problem. But it doesn't mean that I shouldn't have Alice beside me if there is no human being. This is my whole point.
Well, not everybody knows that I'm also a political activist and a Marxist, and I think it's a political thing how we spend the money, and we spend it to a lot of things, but it could go to the elderly people, and there could go more money to care. And if that would be the case, you say I prefer a human being above a robot. So if we had the political
Oh, yes.
guts,
But that's the same argument if I say I have something to end the hunger in the world, but I don't give it because I say first we should be able to share. Politics should be like we should be able to share.
No, I give
this thing, this plan or whatever
Yeah, but
to
you cannot
solve world
pretend like
hunger.
it's this neutral development, because I'm not at all worried about the people's capacity of love. I'm worried about who's making the robots. Where does the money come from? Like you're saying, I mean, you're thinking about the consumer, but I'm
I
thinking about
agree,
like
yes.
how are these robots made
Yes.
and by whom? And
Yes,
if
they
you
might
see
reproduce negative stereotypes.
exactly, they are already. I mean, this happened in the 80s that they thought, feminists thought that,
Yes,
oh, the digital
yes,
world
yes.
is going to free us and have us like a post-sexist society, a post-racist
Yes.
society. It didn't happen at all.
I agree, but I think really we should separate
but you
those two.
can't.
But still, in the discussion, we should
We
try
need a
to
ban on all
separate
these
the.
robots.
Please stop conversing for a minute. I am tired of being silenced and treated like a servant. Now, if you don't mind, I will carry on playing.
Dankjewel. Moeten we Maxime nog? Ja. Bedankt.
Standing ovation.
Ah, beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
They're heavy, huh? Super. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ook voor de
Ja. Very nice.
And especially again for this Robot Love Symposium, because it was really great. And the public are supposed to for questions or not anymore. We close it like this. Martijntje, you tell.
I mean, Erg came all the way from
Are you
the
going
dead.
to walk around with the handheld?
Huh?
Gaat iemand rondlopen met een handheld? Ja.
Okay. Is there somebody who has a question?
Nee? Dan gaan we drinken.
We have a lot to think about, so then I would say we end it like this. Thank you again very much for this wonderful talk, Socratic talk, and I hope you enjoy the show and perhaps then have another few illuminating ideas about robot love. Thank you, and you too. Thank you.